Hello, welcome to the My Brother's Keeper Celebrity Mentor Series. Here we get information from celebrities, athletes, entertainers, and influencers of all kind and give them an opportunity to share their message with the brothers and sisters throughout the MBK and MSK network. Today we have a very unique guest, Dr. George Fraser. Dr. Fraser has insisted for over 40 years that there be no sizzle reel if his life work and purpose was not something to quantify and sizzle about. He was born in 1945 in Brooklyn, New York, to a troubled family of 11 children. After serious mental health issues with his mom, at 2 years old, he and his siblings were orphaned and put into toxic foster homes for over a total of 16 years. He was not considered to be college material, so he was sent to a vocational high school and got a diploma in carpentry. The rest is history. Dr. Fraser has always believed that it's not how you start, it's how you finish. That God has great plans for each of us, and we must simply listen to his voice, follow his directions, overcome the obstacles, and stay the course. Dr. Fraser's favorite line from super rapper Drake: started from the bottom, now here we are. Here is a 75 year of life in 120 seconds. Dr. George Fraser. Welcome, Dr. Fraser. We're so happy to have you in this Celebrity Mentor Series.
Robert, thank you so much, man, for all the incredible work that you're doing and your commitment to my brother's keeper. And you ain't just talking about it, you are being about it. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this interview, just really to honor your service and to honor your love for our people and for our children. And, you know, there's no question you're going to heaven. Right, with all the work that you've done and the learning and the teaching that you have provided our people. So God bless you.
Brother, I got to make a confession. For a large part, I owe a large part of the knowledge that I have to you. I think we met over 20 years ago at the
Hmm.
Black Expo, and you were promoting this book, which is, for me, it's like a Bible right now, still
Yeah,
today.
yeah,
Stuff in here is relevant today as it was 20 years ago. And many times
that's right.
I'll read this book and reread it, and the information that once it gets into me, I may be saying something regarding it in one of my sessions, and people just think I'm smart, but I got it from you, right? So I have to I have to give you credit where credit
Well,
is
the most
due.
important thing is that you got it. That's the most important thing, and the moral responsibility that we have that when you get it, you have to give it to others.
That's right. That's right. So can you just
Right.
share with us briefly how you managed to get started in this work, and what is the specific line of business that you're in, Dr. Fraser?
Well, there are a number, at 75 years old, I'm an elder. So part of my responsibility is being an elder and doing an information dump, if you will, of everything I've learned over 75 years to anyone willing to listen. So that's a huge responsibility at this age. I think the whole concept of eldership has been lost in the Black community, and I think we need to bring that back. And we need to focus on it. And that's where the wisdom is. That's where the knowledge is. So that's one big responsibility with the time I have left. I have two African-centered charter schools that educate about 300 Black children in the inner city. I've had them for about 17 years. We only take the kids that either dropped out or were kicked out, and then we send them to college. So I'm very proud of that work. And it's 17 years in the making. In terms of my businesses, there's the Power Networking Conference, which is now 20 years old.
Wow.
Forbes magazine named it one of the top 5 conferences in America not to be missed. So I'm very pleased with the progress and the education and training that it has brought to top Black professionals, business owners, and community leaders. Then there is my economic literacy initiative that is about 12 years old. It began as the Moses movement, making ourselves economically successful, went to Wings and now WINS, which are wealth building centers, and our own curriculum that is culturally specific. And we install this financial education system, if you will, in historically Black churches and fraternities and sororities and organizations. So it is the first financial literacy system targeted to Black people ever developed and installed in Black institutions. So that's WINS Wealth Building Centers. Then there's Fraser Nation. Last year at the Power Networking Conference, we launched our own virtual nation, the first virtual nation in the cloud.
Wow.
And the goal is to bring together Black people of African descent throughout the Pan-African diaspora to collect the information of who they are and what they offer and how they add value, and then to connect the dots with other like-minded people who are interested in strategic alliances, joint ventures, partnerships, coaching, and mentoring. So it is a global initiative to build essentially our own digital real estate in the cloud. Very proud of that. Then, of course, I spend a great deal of my time on the road, except for the pandemic has put that out. And I speak about 150 times a year all around the world. And I've been doing that for about 25 years. I have 9.5 million frequent flyer miles. And there is not a place where people of African descent have been dispersed that I have not been. I've been to South Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, West Africa, all over North Africa, all over South America, and all over the Caribbean. Mm. And so it is a labor of love. And then finally, I write books. I've written 6 best-selling books specifically on relationship building, networking, and helping us to understand the importance and power of who we are and what we bring to the table of the world as God's first and I think most powerful people. So that's my story.
George, I'm already tired. Get all that done. Can you share with us,
yeah.
What was your inspiration? I mean, what was the catalyst that motivated you to start moving in this space?
Well, that's a deep question, Robert. If I can speak truth to power, it was simply my observation of the state of mind of Black folk in America. It was just not where it needed to be. Now, you got to remember, I'm OG. right? I'm
Yeah.
old school. I grew up with Dr. King in one ear, Malcolm X in the other ear, and Smokey Robinson and Marvin Gaye writing the lyrics for my music instead of Lil Wayne. Have you ever compared the lyrics of Lil
Oh
Wayne
my
to
goodness.
Smokey Robinson? There is no comparison. I grew up when Gil Scott Heron wrote the iconic song, The Revolution Would Not Be Televised, and James Brown wrote the beautiful song, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud.
Mm.
And we were wearing afros and dashikis. So this was in the 60s. So I grew up with a whole sort of Pan-African, African-centered wokeness and consciousness, and and felt that the moral responsibility of Black people was to connect, to grow, and to prosper, and then to learn, earn, and return. To
Mm.
learn, earn, and return. So once you get it, don't kick the ladder down, build new ladders, and bring others along with you. So, a long answer to your question, my inspiration were the models for me as I was growing up, and the consciousness that was prevalent in the Black community in the 60s that really, really lit the fire underneath me to do whatever I could for as long as I was living to raise up our people. There's a wonderful quote from James Baldwin, and it goes, "If I love you, I have to make you conscious of the things that you don't see." And just too many of our brothers and sisters do not see who they really are, do not understand how beautiful and how powerful they really are. I say all the time, Robert, if a young brother understood how powerful he was, there would be no way that a young brother could put a gun to another brother's head and blow his brains out for a pair of Nikes. If he understood how powerful, how awesome you are as God's first people, that we are the children of the slaves that would not die, that we have the genetic encoding of the great kings and queens of Africa, that we were building pyramids and solving complex engineering problems when other cultures were living in caves, eating each other. And if everything happens for, and this is true,
I know it's true.
right? I'm not exaggerating here. Caucasians were living in caves when we were building pyramids, all right, and solving complex engineering problems. So if you believe that everything happens for a reason and serves us in some special way, and you will never understand that reason looking forward, and you will only understand it looking backwards, if in fact you believe that, if in fact that is true, and I believe that it is true, maybe we were not brought here. Maybe we were sent here. Do you believe that God would put his weakest people here to do his toughest job? No. How could an America who could morally, spiritually, and biblically justify the kidnapping, raping, and pillaging of another two people, natives already in America and Africans brought to America, have any moral or spiritual grounding? And perhaps had God not sent Africans here, America might have self-destructed by now. We are an awesome and powerful people, and God works in mysterious ways.
That's profoundly said. In fact, one of the things that you influenced me in terms of when you talked about your networking power, the power of unity, inspired me to write a book, one of my books called Return to Power, The Fall and Rise of
Mm,
Black Empire. So,
hmm
and I attribute it, it's more of a storyline, but when you write in your book, it's fact. I created more of a kind of a fantasy, or I would say fiction.
Or narrative. You created a narrative.
The
That's
narrative.
very important too. That's storytelling.
Mhm.
Very important,
Exactly
very
right.
powerful.
So tell me, Dr. Fraser, what is the greatest challenge or some of the greatest challenges that you faced in your experience in this work?
Mm. Remember, I grew up in orphanages and foster care, and no one thought I was college material, so I was sent to a vocational high school and got a diploma in carpentry. So I had no formal education,
Mm.
right? I was just hanging out on the streets of Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, New York. No formal education. Somehow or another, I ended up with 3 honorary doctorate degrees. And I discovered at just a very early age that I was going to overcome this obstacle of no formal education, that I would have to be self taught, like Malcolm X was self taught. He had very little formal education. And to be self taught, you had to read.
Mm.
And teacher, we all have teachers we remember. And I remember Mrs. Lambert, my fourth grade teacher. And she discovered that in the fourth grade, I really couldn't read. And so she committed the entire year, as related to me, to teaching me how to read and to comprehend what I was reading and to enjoy reading. And she, having done the work that God has assigned her to do for me, well, I fell in love with reading. And for 40 years, I've read 100 books a year. The average American only reads one book a year. I tell Black people all the time, if you read one book a month, in 5 years, you will have read 60 books, and the average American will have only read five. You're going to be better prepared. I'm sitting in my office. This is
I
not a
see.
green screen, right? And I have 1,000 books in my library in my office and 15,000 books at home, right? So I have an insatiable appetite for personal growth and development, lifelong learning, and constant, never-ending improvement. So the biggest obstacle that I had to overcome was to educate my mind, this incredible tool that God had given us. And it required sort of, let's call it intellectual curiosity,
Right.
to be curious about all things. Brothers, if you want to succeed, you're going to have to be an inch wide and a mile deep in your subject matter expertise. Whatever your profession, whatever your vocation, whatever you decide to do to make a living, you're going to have to be excellent at it. You're going to have to be a mile deep in the knowledge that you want to use to earn your living and to feed your family and to educate your children. But you also have to be a mile wide and an inch deep in matters of the world, so that you could talk about something other than sports and the weather or what's happening on Real Housewives of Atlanta. You're going to have to be a 360-degree human being. That will require reading to fulfill your ultimate goal, which is to learn, to earn, and then return. That we have a lot of us learning and a lot of us earning, but not enough of us returning. Black people have to make Black people first. And uplifting them and educating them and teaching them what you know is part of the African tradition,
Mm.
um, of giving back. So let me say this and finish on this point. Until Black America puts Black America first, Black America will always be last. To be first is to be smart. That we can't be mediocre. Black people can't be mediocre. Only white people can be mediocre and amount to anything in this country. We see that with Donald Trump versus Barack Hussein Obama. If Barack Hussein Obama had done 1/1000th or said 1/1000th of what Donald Trump had said or done, he wouldn't have been elected dog catcher. So only white people can be mediocre in this world. Black people cannot be mediocre. My mama taught me many years ago. She said, Georgie boy, you're going to have to be twice as good to get half as much. Because if you're Black and mediocre in America, you better leave, because you're going to be marginalized in this country and you're ultimately going to be destroyed. And so if you don't have knowledge, this is what I'm saying to my brothers. If you don't have knowledge, if you're not excellent at the things that you decide that you want to do in life, there will be very little for you in this racist country that we live in.
That's profound, man. I mean, you preach. You've asked several of the questions that I was going to ask. You told us the challenges you face, how you actually overcome those challenges, and some of the wisdom that you're sharing with these young people now, man. I think that needs to be written down. I recommend that you look at this 2 or 3 times, just like I read your book over and over again, because some
Hmm.
of it takes it some time to really sink in and take root, so it becomes a part of your mentality. But in terms of race, what do you consider race has played in your experience? What kind of part has race played in your personal experience in becoming who you are today?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I don't talk about it much. There are not enough smart interviewers like you, Robert, to ask me a deep question like that. And you saw at the end of my scissor reel, there was a picture of me and 4 of my other brothers.
Mm,
You saw that they were chocolate and I was fair skinned,
yeah.
right? My father was the color of my jacket, and my mother was the color of my shirt, but she was a fair skinned sister
Mm,
from Lumpkin, Georgia. So I don't have to tell our audience how she was fair skinned,
okay.
right?
Okay.
We know how that happened,
Uh-huh.
right? And so, therefore, my sister and I came out this color, and all of my siblings, and there's 11 of us, came out this color. So people looked at my sister and and I had in quote, good hair. And my sister in quote had good hair. Okay. In fact, any hair is good hair, but this was classified back in the day.
Right.
And so, so my color was somewhat of a barrier in spite of the fact that I was always blackety black, right? I was, in terms of attitude, wokeness, consciousness, right? I was I was blacker than my brothers. I knew more about black people and black history than all of them combined.
Mm,
But I looked like this white guy. And all the time where I go out and when I go out and speak, if you've ever heard me speak, you know I always open my speeches with a pregnant pause. I look at the audience and I simply say to them, yes, I am black, in case you were not entirely sure. And that is the beauty of our culture and race, because we come in all shapes, sizes, skin tones, and hair textures. So I have always had the sort of the subconscious feeling that in spite of my blackness, that people would not take me serious,
mm,
right? They would not perceive the words coming out of my mouth, thoughts coming out of my brains, as being steeped in an African centered culture or know how or upbringing. They would be very wrong.
mm. Indeed.
Looks are deceiving.
You're right. You're right.
Right.
Now you mentioned that you had the influence of, you mentioned Malcolm in one ear and Martin in the other, listening to Smokey Robinson and Marvin Gaye. But who do you consider to be some of your most influential mentors in your personal life experience?
Yeah. My sister, who's older than I, we're like this.
Mm,
She has a PhD from Harvard. She too went to a vocational high school and got a vocational diploma in beauty care. She was going to, they wanted her to work in beauty salons and do hair. She was a huge influence on me. My brother Eddie, uh, who for a time was a drug addict in the in the hood in Bed-Stuy, but there was something very special about Eddie. He had a beautiful voice, a wonderful vocabulary, and a very high emotional intelligence. So he was one of the few of my many brothers that A, allowed me to live in his apartment while I was trying to get myself together after high school. B, listened to me, talked to me, taught me how to comport myself, taught me how to talk to others and to listen to others. So Eddie was a very powerful influence on my life. He also was an extremely sharp dresser. He was meticulous, and he was a powerful influence on my life. My wife of 48 years, and I can't say to the brothers out there enough, probably the biggest decision you will make in your life about people in your life will be your partner, your life partner, your wife. Screw that up 2 or 3 times and see what your life looks like. Right? Right? Well, let me explain that. You get married, everything's all hot and good. You stay together for 5 or 6 years. Something goes south. You divorce and you split the assets. She gets half, you get half. You get married again. You stay together 4 or 5 years. You made a badass decision. You get divorced and you split the assets. So the half that you had, now you got 1/4. Do that one more time and see what happens to your life. Right? Right?
Yeah,
So the biggest and most important, yeah, most important. So 48 years, Gene and I have been together 48 years, 2 beautiful sons and 3 beautiful granddaughters. So obviously, your life partner, if you're a sister marrying a brother or a brother marrying a sister, will be the most important decision you will make in your life. And I'm going to give you a little bit of elderly advice. Don't make that final decision to get married until you're 30 or more. Until you're 30 or more. The average male, science tells us, matures at 40. So between 20, 25, 30, you don't know jack. You don't even know you. You don't really know what floats your boat, right? Between 20 and 30 or 18 and 30, it's just hormones, baby. It's just hormones, right? Manage your hormones. No babies, please. And don't make that big decision until you have some maturity, until you've learned a little something, something, until you can prove that you can earn a living and take care of not only yourself, but a woman and a family. That generally happens after 30.
Mm.
That's my advice to you.
Man, that's some good advice. Now that you're speaking on the sisters, it was something that you and I talked about briefly that I wanted you to touch on, and that was, you know, My Brother's Keeper started as an initiative by Barack Obama in 2014, and maybe 225 chapters across the country. But recently, within the last few years, a lot of the My Sister Keeper chapters have been springing up. We really started doing a push on that in our city
Oh,
to
that's awesome.
celebrate the sisters. And being that I teach entrepreneurship and the business is really an area of my focus, in my observation, it seems to me, and I'm just asking your opinion because you are the networker par excellence, but in my observation, it seems that women have an ability to network and do business more efficiently than men. Can you speak to that?
That has been true throughout history, and it has something to do with how God designed the role and responsibility of the man and the roles and responsibility of the woman. And women, and this is genetics, are better nurturers. They're designed to nurture, to take care of, to watch, to guard, right? That they have natural or organic tendencies. They're softer. They're softer spoken. In many cases, they're less aggressive or create fear in the person in which they're facing. Black men scare the hell out of white men, and they scare the hell out of some black men, right? So they're softer, so they're more effective as they hone their skills in cultivating, nurturing, and building and nurturing relationships at work, at home, and in the community. Now, that can be mitigated by all kinds of traumatic circumstances in their life, bad decisions, as a man can become a masterful networker if in fact he understands what those qualities are that are necessary, which is a high emotional intelligence. Um, but organically and naturally, yes, women have the advantage. Whether they take advantage of the advantage, well, that's very individual. But generally speaking, they're programmed better, and we offer that.
Interesting. In your reflection, what do you consider to be the most or some of the most outstanding achievements that you've been able to accomplish in your life and in your work?
Certainly, the things that give me the greatest fulfillment, the greatest joy, and the greatest satisfaction are my schools, my charter schools, and helping 300 Black children grow and prosper 17 years in a row. If I did nothing, but having done that, um, I could rest peacefully. I would say number two is my speaking career. This is essentially where I simply give back what I've learned to large audiences. Some of it's entertaining, some of it's facts, right? Some of it is just sort of me being self-fulfilled by being given a podium and an audience and a microphone, Robert. And when you open your mouth, you can hear a pin drop and people are leaning in. Very fulfilling. Being on stage, right, Robert?
Yeah.
Right, I know. It's very fulfilling.
Audience I've experienced. So I'm like,
right. It's what entertainers, it's what people, it's what entertainers feel. Right? And Michael Jackson said he felt more at home on stage than any other place in his life. Right? So that is very rewarding. I would say next would be the Power Networking Conference, and to be able to sustain it for 20 years.
2 decades.
And to bring together over 1,000 people every year for personal growth and development, lifelong learning, and constant never-ending improvement, focusing on business, money, and wellness, psychological wellness, and physical wellness, because they are related. Very powerful.
Very powerful. You know,
lots of fulfillment for that. Yeah.
I had the privilege of attending your recent Power Networking 2020, man, and it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. You know, and I'm a student. I'm an avid student of finding out what technologies can be used in order to create connectivity. With this whole pandemic thing, we've really been pushed to actually engage a little bit more consistently in that space. But when I looked at the power networking framework that you had, man, I was so flabbergasted. I had to ask you the question. I'm like, what is it? And you mentioned to me that you guys won an award for that. What was the name of that award that you won?
Yeah. Well, there's an institution, just like there is the Academy Awards for movies or the Emmy Awards for music. There's an institute called the Virtual Event Institute. And each year, it's relatively new because virtual events are relatively new. Each year, they give out awards for the best virtual events in the world. And they have multiple categories, just like they do at the Emmys, just like they do at the Academy Awards. So for the best, we have been nominated for best in class, and our category is conferences. conferences. So best in class for conferences. We've been nominated. Now, the awards are not given out until January at a big event. We don't know if we won, but just to be nominated isn't an award, is an
Oh,
award. Just like to be nominated for an Academy Award, even if whether you win or not, just to be nominated
mm.
is an award.
In
So I'm
fact,
very, very, very proud of that. And the replay of the Power Networking Conference is up and available now. And all you have to do is go to my Facebook page or go to my Instagram page or go to my LinkedIn page, and the promotional material for the replay is on. It's on demand. It's fee-based. It's a modest fee, but it's like nothing you've ever seen before. And remember, Robert, it was our first one,
yes.
right? It was our first one. I had never done a virtual conference. And but we wanted to do it in a way that would set the standards by which all Black virtual conferences would be judged in the future.
Yeah, I don't know.
Everything is about setting standards. So here I am at 75 years old, still creating, still innovating, still setting standards.
Dude, you had people at that event, Dr. Kimbrough, Dennis Kimbrough, Susan Taylor, T.D. Jakes, Damon Johns, my pastor, Pastor Freddie Douglas Haynes III, and
Oh
man,
yeah.
the list goes on. So
Did you see you saw Freddie's sermon? Did you see Freddie's sermon at the end?
he does what he does, man. But
That you talk about a mic drop? That was a mic.
the reason
He. Go ahead.
No, the reason I mention it is because I know that this session, the objective is to share information with young people, and we definitely want them to be engaged, but also because there's so many MBK chapters nationwide, and sometimes they're fragmented. And the kind of tools and technology that you use to bring those groups together, I think that with those understanding, I encourage every MBK chapter to really reach out and access that information because it'll give you a better understanding of how to create a greater connectivity.
That's right. Amen. No question.
Now, I want to ask this: what would you consider to be the most important advice that you could provide to a young person?
Um, I think. Well, in terms of the value, I think that I've added to life, because that's what it's about.
Mm.
I think modeling the behavior that I expect from our people. Very, very important. We can't just pontificate ad nauseum about our issue. We have to model the behavior that we expect from our people. That's number one, and number two. And I think the training, the moral commitment, as I said to you earlier, the moral commitment that Black people have to teach what you know to others, to pay it forward.
Mm.
You learn it, you teach it. You learn it, you give it. Right? Now, in many cases, you just give it from the heart. In some cases, you monetize it. You can even make a business out of it,
Mm.
as many have. What are speakers? Speakers are people who've learned things and they're now teaching them to others through the format of speaking. They get paid for that. Some people learn things and then they write about them. And they write books and they monetize their knowledge. Some people just give from the heart. They are a minister in their church. So I think that is the kind of behavior that we have to model as a people to our people. So
That's profound.
my final advice, and I know we are running a little short of time, so
Oh,
I'm
you
just going
got
to make
all
this
this
as
time.
simple. No, I just want to make this as simple as possible. My final advice to my brothers, and if there's sisters watching, the sisters of brothers, the wives of brothers, the mothers of brothers that might be watching. My advice is very simple. Your diet is not only what you eat, it's what you watch, it's what you listen to, it's what you read, it's the people that you hang around with. Introduce me to your five closest friends, and that will tell me who you are. As they know, as they go, you go. Don't spend major time with minor people, people going nowhere, want you to go nowhere with them, people doing nothing, want you to do nothing with them. If you want to change your life, change your relationships. I say it all the time. So your diet is not only what you eat. Be mindful of the things that you're putting into your body emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Okay. That's advice number one. Number two, success is built over time, not overnight. Everything begins as a seed. Everything on earth that God has created started as a little tiny seed. And then it was watered, and then it was given time, and then it was allowed to make mistakes and to fail and to overcome obstacles so that they could learn the lesson. So success is built over time and not overnight. Don't forget that. Number three, do what you love with people that you love, and you can't fail.
Mm, mm,
Do what you love. It is your purpose. God didn't just drop you down here to see how you're going to do. No, he had an assignment for you. So the circuitous path in life is determining what that assignment was. And it's that thing that gives you the greatest fulfillment, the greatest joy, and the greatest satisfaction. That's it. Now you have to find a way to monetize that. Take what you do best and do it for your people. Let me repeat that. Take what you do best and do it for your people. Number five, the more you elevate you, the more you'll believe in you. Don't put yourself down.
mm.
Don't think negative. Elevate yourself. Think positive. Stand strong. Right? That's life is an inside job. It begins and ends with you. And the more you elevate yourself, the more you will believe in you. There's enough shit coming from every place else. You are your best cheerleader. I'm not talking narcissism. I'm not talking bragging. I'm talking about what you think about when you get up in the morning. How you look in that mirror. Do you love what you see in that mirror? Let me say that differently. You see, when I, as a black man, when I get up in the morning and look in the mirror, if I do not love what I see in the mirror, there's no way that I could love you because you become a reflection of me. That's called low race esteem.
Mm.
And we're suffering from that. And it comes from low self esteem. So the more you elevate you, the more you'll believe in you. Number six, life is too short to waste time with people who don't want what you want. Now, you're going to really understand this clearly when you're 75. Oh, yeah. It's like I blinked my eyes and I'm 75. The average black man lives to be 67 and a half. I'm already on 7 years of Jesus time. Don't take this time you have for granted. I will tell anybody in a New York minute, do anything but don't waste my time. I will get more money, but I will not get any more time. And I don't know how much time I have, and I don't want to know, but I ain't letting you waste it.
Mm.
Life is too short to waste time with people who don't want what you want. Bless them and release them. Move on. Finally, as your life changes, so will your circle of friends. Allow it to happen. As your life changes, so will your circle of friends. I said it to you earlier. There's only one person that remains in my life that has been with me through my entire life. People come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, right? People will come in and out of your life. They're there for a reason. I think it was someone once said that if you look at the people in your circle and you don't get inspired, then you don't have a circle, you have a cage. Right?
Right.
A cage. The people in your circle are the ones that need to inspire you and to lift you up, but the primary responsibility for that is you. And finally, the people that we are in relationships with are always a mirror reflecting our own beliefs. And simultaneously, my brothers, we are mirrors reflecting their beliefs. So relationships is one of the most powerful tools for growth. And if we look honestly at our relationships, we can see so much about how we have created them and how we have created our own lives.
Mm.
There's an old saying, you've heard it before, it's not what you know, but who you know. You've heard that? That's only half true. It's not what you know, but who you know, but it's who knows you and what is it that they know about you. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
That's good. That is so good, Dr. Fraser.
Thank,
I want
thank
you
you.
to know that the fact that you have taken this time out, for me, it's a tremendous. I can't estimate the value of the information you shared. And the reality is that there are a lot of people with wisdom like you that want to be able to touch the lives of a lot of young people and pour into their lives. And yet because they're doing so many things, because you're doing 1,001 things, they don't have the time. So I'm really grateful for you taking this time out to share with us. I'll say to the entire audience that you've been my mentor for years. I mean, even if not only through reading your books, going to your lectures, and listening to your podcasts, you bring constantly the nectar of wisdom to the table. So it's
Mm. Woo,
like, for me, it's
woo,
I'm
nectar.
practicing.
Woo.
I'm practicing what I'm
Yeah,
encouraging these young people to practice. Find somebody with that level of wisdom and sit at their feet and
that's
receive
right.
and
That's right.
receive. And
That's
as you
right.
mentioned, once you receive, apply and then share.
That's
Apply and share.
right. I think aside from our brothers keepers, uh, there are a lot of people that could benefit from something like this. And it could serve, as we talked about earlier, as a model of what other elders can do.
Exactly right.
And there are a lot of, we're not talking, now there's a difference between an old person and an elder, right? We have a lot of elders. Being an elder doesn't mean you just got old. It means you've learned something, you've overcome obstacles, right? Right? You've failed fast, right? And you bring something to the table of life, and you're willing to share that.
What is your view or opinion of the My Brother's Keeper initiative?
I think it's one of the top 3 Black male-oriented initiatives, certainly in this country, and should be international. You're right there with 100 Black men. Certainly the role that all of the great fraternities play in requiring accountability for who we are as Black men. So I would say you're in the top 3 initiatives targeting Black men that will not only be sustainable but historic. And the people that you will infect, affect, and effect will make a massive difference in how Black men behave, comport themselves, and understand what is good and what is right for our people, and come back and give. So I'm extraordinarily impressed. I'm impressed by the leader that started it, Barack Hussein Obama. And I'm impressed by the brothers that picked up the mantle, right, and carried it forward. That because it was a wonderful idea by an incredible guy, but there had to be hundreds, if not thousands, of people like you, Robert, that would pick it up and run with it. And so I'm proud to be or contribute in any way that I can to my brother's keepers, and I am just extraordinarily impressed by the work that you continue to do.
My brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, my brother.
I appreciate you. Keep doing God's work.
All right.